Hi, it's Penny here, and today we're going to be looking at whether I actually read the books on my October TBR. And the main reason we're going to be doing this is in my October TBR, I said that for any book that I didn't read, I would punish myself by donating to charity. And that is definitely still the plan, and spoiler, I definitely did not read all the books on my TBR, so we will be doing some donations. Now, I was thinking about putting this at the end of my wrap-up, but my wrap-ups often end up being quite long. I do the whole book battle thing, and I like to give a lot of thoughts about the books that I've read, so I thought, I don't really want to make that video longer. Then I thought about putting it at the end of my November TBR, but I often like to pre-film my TBRs, so at that point I don't know what I'm going to finish for the month. So I thought we'd try doing it as this separate reaction video and see how we go. I also bought myself rewards for all the books that I did finish, so I'll tell you how I rewarded myself. And I also think for the books that I did read, it will be interesting to see whether I actually was right about what the book was going to be about. But if you do want my more in-depth thoughts about any of these books, I will be doing my book battle, and I'll probably have that out a couple of days after this one. Okay, so I've put these on and we will watch my TBR video. Hi, it's Penny here, and today we're going to be putting together my TBR for October, which is the spooky month. And for a long time, I've been putting aside a couple of spooky books to read in October, so we'll see if we can fit those into the TBR. But as usual, I will be using my TBR Machine website that generates random reading prompts to pick 3 books. I'm just going for 3 books lately because I just started a new job. Life is crazy, and 3 books is actually enough of a challenge. And I still will be reading audiobooks and library books on top of that, so I'll probably still end up with too much to read. So firstly, I do just want to touch on library books. I expect in October I'll still be reading Oathbringer, unless like I lose my job and I decide to escape from reality. There's just no way that I'll get through this month. Honestly, there's no way I'll get through it in the next month either. So I didn't read Oathbringer. What I did have to do was return it to the library because when I first got it out, there was no hold queue. But I think because Rhythm of War is coming out, a lot of people have put holds on it, and so I had to return it because there was a hold queue. So what I decided is, since I'm just really struggling to find time for a big book like that, since I've gone back to work, that I would finish off the second half of this book in audiobook form. So I have purchased it. I haven't quite got to it yet. Maybe in November. That's the plan. So that means we've got 1 punishment. I'm going to keep track of the number, and then at the end we'll pick some charities to donate to. Right, what else didn't I read? As well, I got Deck of Omens by Christine Lynn Herman from the library. It's this beautiful copy with sprayed edges, and it's also the final book in the duology, the first book being The Devouring Grey. So, the Deck of Omens, huh? I got that beautiful copy from the library, and again, ran out of time to read it before I had to return it. It had a hold queue, so I couldn't keep it longer, and I decided to pick it up by audiobook instead, and I put it on my November TBR. So I've actually read it at this point, but I didn't read it in October, so that means we get another punishment. I knew this wasn't going to be good, but it's honestly worse than I thought it was going to be. What else? Read the shortest book on your TBR. I wonder what it is. Okay, so the shortest book on my TBR is The TBR Machine and Other Stories by H.G. Wells. I don't often. So, The Time Machine. I really would like to read that. And it's the shortest book on my TBR, so you would think I would have time to read it. But time was not a thing in October. So, this is another book that I didn't read. You guys get used to this because there's a lot more of this. Read a book released 10 or more years ago. Okay, so I can fit one of the books that I was saving for October into this prompt, and that is Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. I don't know anything about this, so it's quite annoying because I was putting some of these books aside especially to read in October, and that didn't work out. I mean, on the plus side, I'll have some books to read next October. Let's look at it that way. But no, this is another book that I didn't read. Read a book with purple on the cover. Okay, another one that I have been putting aside for October. This one is The Kneebone Boy by Ellen Potter. Yeah, so yeah, I pretty much didn't read any of the physical books that I put on my TBR for October. I really hope that this won't be a pattern. I'm pretty sure most of the time I read the books off my TBR. October was like the worst month, and I've seen a lot of people had bad reading months in October, so it's not just me, but it definitely didn't help that I'd started a new job. Anyway, I don't need to make excuses. The main thing is, this is another book that I didn't read. So that's 5 books we didn't read. Now, I think we move on now to audiobooks, and I'm pretty sure I said I would still punish myself for the audiobooks too. So these are going to be the 5 books on my TBR for October, and if I read them all, I can be rewarded. If I don't, I'll be punished by being forced into being a nice person. It does seem like a fairly realistic pile, does it? I don't know what speed I read at anymore. As well, I do also have quite a lot of audiobooks that I will probably be reading in October, but honestly, I have so many audiobooks out at the moment, and I don't know how many I'm going to get through by the end of September. This is the problem with pre-filming your TBR. But let me make some guesses. I think it's quite likely that I will be listening to The Silver Mask by Holly Black and Cassandra Clare. So, The Silver Mask, I actually read it. I will say I did a lot better with audiobooks in the month of October because while I didn't have a lot of time for reading physical books, I was still commuting some of the time and like going on some walks and doing housework, so I had time for listening to audiobooks. So we should do much better in this audiobook section. I will also note I did read some physical books in October. They just weren't these ones on my TBR. So there'll be some in my book battle, so you can find out what they are in that video. Also, I won't go into many thoughts about The Silver Mask, and it was the 4th book in the series, so I did have a fairly good idea going into it what it was. And I would say that that series has been getting better and better. So it delivered on what I was expecting. Also have the 3rd and final book of the Psych series, so that is The Toll by Neal Shusterman. This is set in a world where no one dies anymore. Supposedly it's a perfect world, except that because they have overpopulation, they have nominated these scythes who choose people to die to keep the population under control. And primarily we're following several different scythes as they learn about some problems in the world. I was very unimpressed with the 1st book in the trilogy. The 2nd book in the trilogy I almost liked, but I've heard very mixed opinions about the 3rd book, so I don't know how I'm going to feel about it. I guess we will find out in October. So, I did read The Toll, and I would also say that this one met expectations. I don't think it was amazing, but it did fix some of the problems I had with the earlier books in the series, and I think, like, it's pretty much what I expected from the last book of that series. So it wasn't a disappointment. I think that I'll be getting to The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. So this is one where I expect the writing to be very lyrical. I've read The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern and that was beautiful, but I admit very difficult to understand and not great if you don't like things to be ambiguous. And in this one, there's a boy who finds his own story in a book and things get very strange from there. I expect it to be also not very clear what's going on, but since I did enjoy reading The Night Circus via audiobook, I thought I would try the same format with The Starless Sea. What I'm just noticing now is there are little bees in this particular cover of The Starless Sea. I've never noticed the bees on the keys. The bees on the keys. But I did read The Starless Sea and I was correct. A boy finds his own story in a book and it gets very strange from there, and the story is very ambiguous and strange and hard to follow. Exactly what I expected. So this is another one that I read and it met expectations. Starless Sea is also one of the books on my 20 books that I wanted to read in 2020. In fact, The Toll is on that list too, so I am doing very well with that list, even though I'm cheating by reading them on audiobook. But is it cheating? No, it's not. And maybe some other audiobooks will hang over from September, or I'll find some more holds. I don't think 3 audiobooks is enough, but let's say 3 for now because that's a nice, easy commitment. Because I think the audiobooks count in the reward and punishment as well, do they? Yes. I think they do. So that means I've committed to 8 books in total, which does mean that maybe I could buy 8 things for myself. So, interestingly, I did read 8 books in October, and I did buy 8 things for myself. However, the 8 books I read were clearly not the 8 books from my TBR, because I didn't read the 5 physical books. I read some different physical books. I think just 2, and then I read 6 audiobooks rather than just the 3 in the TBR. So, not exactly the plan, but as I'll get into when I do my full wrap up and book battle, I did like some of the books, so whatever. Also, starting a new job, you don't expect things to go to plan, so that is fine. So let's get rid of these and we'll talk about charities. So what I realized when I went to film this video is that really I should be spending a lot more time doing the preparation for this video, because once I started looking into how many great charities there are out there that I would like to donate to, I realized that there's so many that it's almost impossible to choose which ones are the ones I want to donate to. So I definitely still want you guys to be recommending ones to me down below, because it makes my decisions easier. What I've got at the moment is I've got 2 lists. I've got one list of charities that you guys have suggested to me in my videos before where I've talked about this, and I have another list which is New Zealand charities. So I think what I'm going to do is use some kind of random selection method, and for each book that I didn't read, I'm going to pick a charity randomly off the lists, alternating between the 2 lists. Does that make sense? I also think that I'm just going to be donating $20 per charity, because otherwise I'm going to be broke. And I think that's like an acceptable level of punishment. Also, I'll leave all the links to these charities down below, so if you're interested in donating to some of these as well, you can do so. So my list of charities from you guys is currently only 8 books long, so I'm going to get Siri to give me a number between 1 and 8. Siri, can you give me a number between 1 and 8? 2. So 2 is Camp del Corazon, which is a camp for kids with heart disease. I should have written down who suggested it. I'll put it on screen here perhaps. So I'll be donating to them. And then on my own list, actually I have 8 things as well. So, alright, so number 7 means that we will be donating to the Jane Goodall Institute. Jane Goodall was a woman. I think she's passed away now, but she did a lot of work working with chimpanzees and trying to protect the environment. I had a look at her institute and it looked like it does some good stuff. So that's the one we're going to donate to. Let's go back to your list. Sorry, can I have a number between 1 and 8?
The answer is 4.
4. So number 4 is the Anthony Nolan organization, who help people with blood cancer, so I'll be donating to them. Then second to last one, Siri, can you please give me a number between 1 and 8?
The answer is 7.
7. That's the Jane Goodall Institute again, so I will give them a double donation. And then we have our last one, so Siri, can you give me a number between 1 and 8?
That would be 4.
4. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4. That is the Anthony Nolan Trust. That's what it's called. Anthony Nolan Trust again. So it's actually quite nice that it doubled up on some then, because I sort of feel like $20 is nice, but it's not quite enough. Although, of course, the whole point with these charities is that lots of people give lots of little bits and it all adds up. So as I said, I will leave the charities down below so that you can donate as well if you would like to. I just realized I forgot to tell you about some of my rewards, so I'm just going to tell you about the 3 rewards for the 3 books that were in my TBR. So firstly, the Silver Mask. I bought myself a little external drive. It's so tiny compared to my old external drives that had the same amount of space on them. It's like a baby, but super convenient because I do too much video stuff and I was always running out of space on my laptop. Then for the toll, I actually ordered a book. So Alona Andrews, who wrote the Kate Daniels series that I really liked, has been writing this follow-on series in the same world following the adopted daughter of Kate Daniels, and the first book is coming out next year, so I have pre-ordered the ebook. I'm still hoping there will be a physical book eventually, but next year I'm going to read that. So I've pre-ordered that and I'm super excited about it. And then lastly, for those of you who watch my vlogs, you'll know that I spent 4 hours one day looking for my lost keys and I didn't find them until the next day, and it was very annoying and I hated it and I never want to do that again. And so I actually bought myself a tile so that now if I lose my keys, I can use my phone to find them. I can also use my keys to find my phone, which is another thing that I lose all the time. Hopefully I can avoid losing them both at the same time. That's not going to work out that well, although I can always find my phone using Find My Phone. So that should mean I never lose both of them. Fingers crossed, because that was a really annoying thing. Anyway, I am actually glad that my very first time of doing this, I ended up doing quite a bit of charity donations. I'm kind of split between whether I want to do better at my TBR next month or whether I want to donate more to charity. But I definitely am short on charities, so leave me good ones down below. And as well, let me know whether you liked this as a separate video or whether I should try and incorporate it into one of the other videos. I don't know. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well and I will see you next time.